The night she left, I didn't say a word. She stood in the doorway, her voice soft but certain, saying she needed something new, something I could no longer give. It wasn't loud or dramatic. It was a quiet unraveling, like a thread slipping free. I'd never felt so invisible, watching someone I loved become a stranger right in front of me. If you've ever been left behind so gently it felt like a sigh, if you've seen someone you thought you knew fade into someone else entirely, this story is yours. She didn't shed a tear as she walked away. That's what lingered. Not the sting of her choice, not the silence that followed, not even how quickly her side of the closet became bare. It was her dry eyes, as if she'd already mourned us long before, maybe in someone else's arms. I sat at the kitchen table, her keys still in the bowl, her ring beside them, glinting like a forgotten promise. She looked at me waiting for a reaction, anger, questions, anything. But I just stared, tracing her face like I was seeing it for the first time, because she wasn't mine anymore. The woman who once called me her everything, who swore we'd have forever, stood there with packed bags and a weary expression, like loving me had worn her down. I didn't chase her. I didn't call or plead. Some fights aren't worth having when the other person's already gone. I didn't ask who he was, didn't want his name or his face in my head. It wouldn't change the truth. She chose him. The days that followed were heavy, not with peace but with a hollow ache. Silence clung to me, thick and unyielding, turning every corner of the house into a reminder of her absence. Her side of the bed felt louder than any argument, so I slept on the couch. The dinner table became a place I avoided, its emptiness too stark. People called me strong for not reaching out, but it wasn't strength. It was just exhaustion. The kind that comes when your heart's been shattered so quietly you barely notice until it's done. Heartbreak isn't always loud sobs or broken dishes. Sometimes it's just a weight you carry, silent and steady, until you learn to set it down. Time passed slow at first, then faster. I started walking again alone, letting the world feel bigger than my pain. I read books I'd forgotten I loved, sipped coffee without hurrying. Healing wasn't a single moment. It was small steps, piecing myself back together. She never called, not once, and I didn't expect her to. Then a year later, on a cloudy Sunday evening, a knock came at my door. I wasn't expecting anyone. When I opened it, there she was, like a memory I hadn't asked for. Her hair was longer, her eyes heavier, and she wore a wedding dress, pristine, elegant, meant for someone else. I froze, not angry or hurt, just lost. She didn't greet me, didn't ask to come in. I couldn't do it, she whispered, stepping inside like she wasn't sure she belonged. She stood in the living room, the same place where we'd shared countless nights, now trembling in that dress. It felt wrong, she said, her voice barely steady. I put it on, looked at myself, and all I saw was you. I didn't respond, just watched her unravel. She kept talking, her words spilling out. I thought I'd moved on, that you were just a chapter I'd closed. I told myself he was my future. But when the moment came, I couldn't walk down the aisle. I felt nothing. I stayed silent, part of me wanting to shout about the nights I spent questioning myself, the days I felt like a shadow of who I'd been. But I didn't. She already knew. Her eyes were wet now, her voice breaking. I'm not here for forgiveness, she said. I don't deserve it. I just needed you to know. You were never the mistake. I was too lost to see what I had. She took off her veil, folding it carefully, placing it on the table like an offering. I thought he'd make me forget you, she said. But he only made me see what I destroyed. She stepped closer, the dress heavy on her frame. I wore this for him, but all I could think of was the man who loved me when I didn't even love myself. Finally I spoke, my voice steady. You didn't just walk away. You erased us. She nodded, tears falling freely now, no effort to hide them. I know, she said softly. I came here not to ask for you back, but because you were the only one who ever loved me truly. I needed you to know that. She stayed a little longer, just enough to let the tears fall, to glance around at the life she'd left behind. Then she stood, folded the dress, and set it on the chair. A quiet gesture, like a confession. Before she left, she turned to me. You were my ghost, she said. But you were always the real one. I'm sorry I chased something fleeting instead. She walked out, as quietly as before. But this time it didn't shatter me. I didn't collapse or question myself. I stood there whole, because I'd learned something she hadn't. Love doesn't always mean holding on. Sometimes it means letting go, surviving, even when the person you poured your heart into chooses someone else. When she came back, dressed in a future that wasn't mine, I saw her clearly, not as my home, but as a lesson. Some people only understand what they've lost when it's standing in front of them again. But by then, I'd become someone who didn't need her to choose me. I'd chosen myself.